Every single one of those 260 we have met in person.
There are many communities out there. What is it that makes Shift so unique?
In the safe room of other founders who have the battle scars.
We meet with everyone. You know, it's not a sign-up link. We're very people-focused. We do tailor our propositions. You know, what we do for one doesn't work for the other.
We're working actually with some of the accelerator programs, so with Lloyds and TSB.
Is there a moment that you're particularly proud of?
Fintech Power 50, we were recognised on that list as one of the most influential businesses in the fintech ecosystem. People get scared about the idea of my banking data being open. What you can't see can't be managed.
There are still barriers for businesses in terms of accessing data.
Kyle, Nav, thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to have you on Fintech Diaries and learn more about Shift and all the amazing work that you're doing there.
Yeah, we recently launched a bonus episode of Fintech Diaries where we delved into the story of Woodhurst and Shift. So if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure you do. But today we're going to be hearing a little bit more about where Shift came from, where Fintech Champions community came from. So yeah.
So before we kind of delve into some of the questions, it'd be great to get a bit of an introduction from you both, who you are, your kind of role at Shift. So Kyle, if we could start with you.
Sure, yeah, so who am I? I've had a bit of a meandering route because I kind of seem to have different interests. So started out founding a kickboxing club, then I co-founded a social enterprise teaching soft skills to students. Then I wrote stock screening codes that I sold. Then I founded a vegan food business, and then I was a founding member of a community for multi-potentialites in London. So weird path, but through those kind of different interests and different avenues, I've always had these constants of startups and finance. Always loved them, always energized me. And luckily, through my professional career, I've had the opportunities to empower all the way from solopreneurs to digital banks on how they develop their propositions and how they build the operations behind that to support it. And the interest for fintechs, it started at the Fintech Innovation Lab whilst I was at Accenture, and it was just this beautiful combination of startups and finance to mix my interests. And after that initial scene and my passion just growing and growing, I then came over to Shift, mostly because of the amazing team we have here, and also now more than ever, I believe that Shift has such a huge potential to have an impact on the fintech industry.
Amazing. Well, interesting career so far. How about you, Nav? Could you give us a bit of an introduction?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Navpreet Palmer and I'm a management consultant at Woodhurst, one of the management consultants at Woodhurst. My role mainly involves, working with businesses across the financial services industry and helping them achieving their strategic goals. So I specialise in delivering transformative change programs to them. My personal client base has mainly been top tier retail and investment banks, but now I've kind of, moved more into serving building societies as well. So I used to work at Accenture, that's where I started my career, and now I moved over to Woodhurst last year. And it was through Woodhurst that I discovered Shift, and immediately I was very interested in, the fintech world, because it wasn't something that I was exposed to before, working for a bigger consultancy. So I was quite interested in being involved, not too sure how to start with, but I can, quite happily say that I do wear a very, very lovely hat now of a head of FI partnerships, looking after our Fintech Champions community. So yeah.
Love that. Yeah, great to hear about sort of where it all started, really. So obviously you're heading up Shift and you're heading up Fintech Champions community. Let's start with Shift. What is Shift about?
Sure. So Shift was actually started from a report that Lydia here wrote on uncovering the potential of open finance, which was amazing. It's still on the website if you want to go check it out. Yeah, but it was really good to see the huge potential that open finance has in the UK especially. But you realised there wasn't enough collaboration going on in the industry. So that's where Shift kind of came in. It had this mission to progress the UK's open finance agenda collaboratively amongst fintech founders and influencers. And it's quite amazing to see how Shift has grown. It's slightly widened in scope, I feel. It's not just on open finance anymore, but it's grown to, I think, as of yesterday, 270 members from across 160 fintechs, which, considering we're an invite-only community, so every single one of those 260 we have met in person or we have spoken to on a call before they have been invited. I think something for us all to be really chuffed about, and I'm just amazed to see it grow that quick.
Yeah, definitely. It's been amazing to see the kind of journey Shift has been on from having those initial conversations about open banking, open finance a couple of years ago. And like Penny said, obviously you're heading up the Fintech Champion community now. Can you kind of tell us a bit more about that and what the purpose of that is?
Yeah, sure. So the Fintech Champions community is a free and friendly community of individuals from FIs. So currently we have about 11 members as of today. So we just signed up our latest member this afternoon. Really happy about that. We started end of October, I'd say, last year. So coming up to 3 months now, or 4 months, losing track of time a little bit because it's growing so fast. But yeah, it's a friendly community of individuals from FIs, and these individuals are either performing roles within their businesses that require them to have some sort of knowledge of the fintech industry and the fintechs that exist within there, or they have no knowledge and they just want to learn. So we welcome those individuals too. But the main people that join our community are those that work in specific areas within their business, such as business banking, savings or mortgages, that have a vision, so have a strategic goal that they like to meet or have to meet that requires them to partner with a third-party fintech to help them achieve those goals. So something that they can't do, in-house. So they usually come to us with some support and guidance of, what solutions are available out there, and that's where the Fintech Champions community kind of has a nice sweet spot there.
Definitely. And just on that, I know you're really trying to help collaboration between the FIs and the fintechs. Those fintechs that are all trying to get in front of the FIs, have those initial conversations, pitch their solution. What are you hearing from the Fintech Champions in terms of some tips or what they're specifically looking for that the fintechs can take on board?
Yeah, sure. So it looks very different per FI. So some of our, two of our members are more, leading innovation programs or investment programs within their business. So they don't have a specific, goal to meet as such, but they're very keen on just, expanding their knowledge in the industry and would, look to invest in some of these fintechs. So they would define, certain themes of the program every time the program starts. So they could be quarterly or 6-month-long programs. And those themes could be anything from, open banking payments or, money confidence or, energy, financial literacy. So then, we would then speak to those fintechs who from our Shift community and then make those introductions accordingly.
Just on that side, because I think what we've seen from the Fintech Champions as well on their advice for fintechs, some things have slightly surprised me. And it's probably 3 major things, which the first one is fairly obvious, but they don't like to just be pitched at. They don't like a fintech to come straight in and hell's blazing, this is what we do, blah, 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 blah. They seem to prefer this consultative approach, which I think we all prefer. It's understanding the financial institution's problems and seeing how the fintech can fit into that. Second thing is the nuances in language. So, the easiest example is you talk to a bank, you normally say customer. You talk to a building society, as soon as you say customer, they're not going to listen because they're members, not customers. And then the third thing is, it was mentioned by, I believe, Melton Building Society, saying one of them prefers to hear the product rather than the solution, which was quite counterintuitive to me. Normally we're told to tell these stories of how we can help, old Deborah at the Building Society reach better financial outcomes. But he prefers to see the product of the fintech because we don't know what's going on inside the bank as well as they do. So they can apply that in sometimes different ways the fintech may never have seen. But yeah, it's really interesting.
And also, just to add to that, the Fintech Champions community is for the champions, so that these are people from the FIs. But the real reason we started this is, so there's 2 reasons we started this, but kind of like twofold. So one is for the FIs so that they can increase their knowledge and form the right partnerships, but also for our Shift fintechs as well. So we operate as success managers towards some of our Shift members, where we support them quite closely in their market positioning and their pitch refinement, etc. And through our services, they've expanded and they've gone on to win partnerships with FIs. But along the lines, we do feel that, if they could get the same sort of, advice and feedback from the FIs directly, that would be equally, if not more valuable. So some of these fintech champions, are very active and, in supporting some of our fintech members within the Shift Plus community grow. We would start a meeting which would be, just a casual introduction or a practice pitch. And, most of these conversations have ended with, we want to follow up. We want to bring, our head of sustainability, or, if it's with an energy saving fintech, or if it's financial literacy, then we want to bring the right person into the meeting. So it just shows that, what we've started here is of huge value on both sides, not just for the FI.
I think you've definitely sort of struck a match made in heaven almost, because you're looking at FIs who want to partner and find fintechs, interesting fintechs, exciting fintechs that can add to their business, and then also, a community of over 250 fintechs that can really address that. I'm really keen to hear a little bit more about sort of the success stories that you were just touching on there. But before we delve into that, I'm really keen to ask, within the financial services space, there are many communities out there. What is it that makes Fintech Champions and Shift so unique? I think you touched on it a little bit around sort of our consultative approach and our success management, but yeah, keen to hear a bit more about that.
Sure. So Shift, generally, I think we have kind of 3 core points. And that is, first, awareness. So we help try and produce amazing content. We're trying more than ever with this podcast, with the newsletter of Fintech and Open Finance we send out monthly, the not so frequent but highly relevant updates we send to the community so it's not bombarded. And also sharing our members out to the market, making sure people hear about these fintechs. Second one is development. So again, what you've just alluded to there, Shift Plus, where we try and help fintechs more than ever to develop their propositions. There's also partners we bring in for educational events, and a series that I really love is the Practice Pitch event, which we started 3 quarters ago. And it's just a lovely atmosphere of 2 fintechs being able to pitch their solution in the safe room of other founders who have the battle scars and the lessons learned that you can all kind of appreciate. And then the final bit is connection. So we span the virtual space, we span the in-person space for events to continually connect. And you'll probably touch on this about, one, connecting fintechs and financial institutions, but also connecting fintechs to fintechs. And again, another event that I'm particularly keen of, we just started it 2 months ago, is the casual meetup. It's a little bit silly because there's no agenda, there's no speaker, it's not as organised as the other events, but it's fintechs getting to a pub, a venue, and almost catching up like old friends. And it's really nice to see these energising, open conversations that just happen between them.
Definitely. I think the community that's been built with Shift is one where everyone is so engaged, which I really think helps push it forward. And Nav, you were saying it a bit with the Fintech Champions piece, but it sounds like you're really finding the right people to be involved and the people who actually really want to help, rather than just kind of closing the door down and not wanting to kind of engage. They're there and willing to give their support and advice, which is really great to see. Have you kind of enjoyed working in this space?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what actually makes it quite exciting for me is that, the fact that we do actually, pick and choose who's going to be part of the community. We meet with everyone. It's not a sign-up link that's sent via email and you click on it and you're part of the community and then you come to one of our events. Our group is small. Like I said, it's 11 members at the moment. We are growing, but we do meet everyone, if not in person, then definitely virtually. Before they join the community. And some people, we do say, maybe this isn't the right thing for you. If they're not working in any sort of area that requires them to have some fintech knowledge, or we don't see that kind of interest, then we do turn them away as well. But we're open to that. But I think what I was going to say, what makes Fintech Champions quite unique is that FIs can go to many different forums and groups where they can become a part of and learn about the fintech industry. Our core piece isn't that. Our core thing is that you'll get the knowledge and awareness, but we can also support you with the selection process and the implementation of that project as well. We spoke about, I think you guys spoke about Woodhurst in the last episode with the founders. We're very people focused. So we do tailor our propositions. The community is free. So for every, all of these 11 members, the way we support each of these 11 members is different. What we do for one doesn't work for the other. So, and this is how we would also support when they, pick a fintech and are ready to implement as well. So That's what really makes us unique.
Amazing. That tailored approach, I think, is definitely what sets you apart.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, keen to hear some more sort of live action stories and success stories, if you will. What can you tell us about what Shift and Fintech Community have achieved together?
Sure. So one awesome thing we're doing is we're working actually with some of the accelerator programs, so with Lloyds and TSB and one we just spoke to recently. But we try and help their scouting process. So what's normally an online application, we now try to bring to the in-person space. So you can actually learn who the founder of that fintech is, who's there on the bank side, and you can actually build a connection rather than just seeing, what's written on an application. And we had a recent success story with that. So Doshi, a financial education fintech we have in the community, we managed to get them an in-person meeting with TSB Labs. They went through the labs, passed with flying colours, and are now building integrations with TSB, which is, it's just incredible that we were able to create that opportunity. And then another one about the private bank, which I'm sure Nav will probably talk a bit about. But the other one is, because as I said, that's a fintech to financial institution partnership. There's also fintech to fintech. And a good example is Kogo. So carbon tracking fintech, we have the community. David is a lovely guy, and he's built 2 partnerships now with Aleak and Money Hub. So he goes to financial institutions with joint propositions to make them even stronger and more attractive to banks, so they can help your individual consumer better their carbon impact through spending data now more than ever. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the Fintech Champions community, we're only 3 months old, so we're still, finding our feet a little bit with the community in terms of its expansion and success stories that will come from it. But we have 2 really good, things that are in the pipeline, which I can't talk about, openly just yet. But for example, the private bank that Kyle mentioned, one of our Shift Plus members is, on board with them in terms of creating a longer standing partnership. So we've been working through like the pricing model and a technical assessment that needs to happen. So those kind of things are happening as we speak. And then there's another bank that's part of the community as well, who are very keen on looking for an open banking payment solution within their business banking part of the business. And we're putting together a tailored proposition for them as well. So a lot of exciting things happening in the FinTech Champ space as well.
No, brilliant. I mean, it's amazing to hear these success stories that have already come out of Shift, and it's only launched in Jan last year, wasn't it? Yeah. Kind of looking back, I guess, over the last year, the past 3 to 6 months, is there a moment that you're particularly proud of, like something that's happened in the community, however big or small, that's really made you think, wow, we've kind of done something really good here?
Me and Carl both were, from the start on the Fintech Champions community. It was actually Carl's idea to start the community, and I was, immediately on board with it. And we had support from Ben as well, who's one of our co-founders. But I don't know if you felt this, Carl, but in my mind, when we were reaching out to the FIs, telling them about, we're starting this community, and we reached out to a few friendly people first, I wasn't sure what the response was going to be. I was like, I don't really know if this is something they would like. Like in our minds, it was a great idea. But everyone, was on board so quickly, because our initial plan was that for the first quarter, we're going to start this off as a friendly community, with friendly members, and, not do too much with it and just see how it goes, because we did want to tread carefully. But I don't even know when we crossed that line and when it became very serious. We were signing people up in December as well, and we thought December was going to be a very quiet month for us. Yeah. It wasn't. We were running in-person demo days in December, turning up in our suits and blazers, bringing our fintechs along. So I think it's really hard to pick one day or one moment that I'm really proud of from the Fintech Champion side. But I think the growth is something that I'm just super, super happy about. And I'm really excited for 2024 to see, by this time at the end next year, how many members would we have, and the success stories that could potentially come out of all of this.
Definitely. We'll have to get you back on in a year's time and see how much it's grown. But yeah, Cal, how about you? Have you had time to think about that pivotal moment for you?
There's been quite a few. I've just loved the whole journey. I mean, I started on a consultant basis, so part-time, and then I came on full-time. So to make that decision was huge for me. But proof points from the community, definitely one of them was when one of our members posted, literally, like, if anyone wants the 411 on shift, it's the best community I've been a part of. That was Olivia Minnick, and it was just amazing to see. Today I got an email from a Boogie Fintech who had our logo in their email signature. Yeah, it was saying supported by Shift, and that just made me feel like incredible. And then the external validation as well. So Fintech Power 50, we were recognised on that list as one of the most influential businesses in the fintech ecosystem. So yeah, there's a lot to be proud of, but those three are probably the top three for me.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
amazing. It's great to hear the sort of the achievements that Shift has had in such a short time, and I'm sure we'll be able to hear a lot more in a year's time around sort of all of the great things that Fintech Champions will achieve as well. What are your thoughts around sort of the industry at the moment? I know, we're really trying to bridge the gap here between FIs and fintechs, and supporting the partnering process, really helping fintechs achieve commercial outcomes, but at the same time help FIs find what they're looking for. But what are your sort of thoughts around the challenges that really exist between that happening? Because I know we help the scouting process via introductions and things like roundtables. But what about sort of the next steps? Where do you think the challenges lie, and what are you hearing from FIs, Nav?
I think the biggest challenge in my mind is, FIs being, confident in making that change. I think, I started my consultancy career, I think I'm in my 8th year now. So I started, at Accenture, and this is from day one. I've seen this, and I kind of feel we're a little bit still there. So that's a massive, shift that needs to happen. And what I mean by that is, most of our FIs, when I have conversations with them about, partnering with a fintech, or it doesn't even need to be partnering with a fintech. It could be, any sort of change, transformative change that needs to happen in their business, whether that's, a cost-cutting exercise or, a streamlining their reports, all of that. They do ask, is anyone else doing that? There's always that, has anyone else tried and tested this? Does it work? I think there's still a little bit of nervousness around, being a leader in change. There are a lot of fast followers, but I still am, I would love for FIs to proactively come forward and say, we want to change this, and we see, because I don't think the challenge is that change needs to happen. I think it's how and where and the ifs and buts around it is what holds some of them back.
Yeah, I think that's the key point you said there about a leader. There's the saying of everyone wants to be the first to be third.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be a fast follower because it's easier that way, because you never get penalised for picking Salesforce as your provider. But if you pick a small fintech which goes bust, it can get a bit scary and your job's on the line. So there is obviously more risks. But when these partnerships do come through, the amount of success they can create is huge. And we saw the kind of gap on both sides of the equation from our fintech champions who weren't sure which direction to go in and which fintechs to look for, and the fintechs who didn't know which FIs to partner with, how to communicate that. And now that was a gap we found. Even for post-accelerator fintechs, they were left in this lonely middle without the advice or experience they needed to get on RFIs to reach the right enterprise agreements that they need. But it's what we're trying to change, and I'm so passionate about it because we need it. As a nation, as globally, we need these innovative fintechs to partner with these forward-thinking financial institutions, because banks are our beacon of safety, regulation. They're always going to be there, and we need them to be that. But that means they can't innovate, they can't move as quick as these fintechs do develop. So if we want the best in financial services to be delivered to your everyday user, you need fintechs to partner with financial institutions so they can be delivered through trusted institutions. And that means me and you and everyone in their day-to-day basis doesn't need to know about fintech, but it impacts their lives.
Exactly, and it's about the partnership, and I think it's communities like this with the people like both of you who are so passionate about driving that forward that will really make things change faster. Because you're right, Nav, in FI we see it, being in this industry for quite a while, it goes a lot slower than a lot of us would like. But just touching on as well the open banking, open finance industry, obviously Shift was kind of born at the start because there was a group of fintechs that were really passionate about driving the open banking, open finance agenda forward, We've really seen in the past couple of years the adoption of open banking really take off, which has been really great to see. But what's going on in the industry, kind of according to both of you, with open banking, open finance? And are there any particular use cases that you're seeing, maybe from some of the members within Shift, that you find particularly exciting?
Just for viewers who might not know, open banking is obviously the ability to access your banking data for a third party. And open finance is the logical next step of that, of not just current accounts, it could be your pension accounts, your investment accounts. As you said, open banking's moved a lot. It has data standards of PSD2, still not moving as quick as I'd like, and there's a lot more to come, and open finance has barely been touched. Now, I could list and list and list the exciting innovations that will come out of this and come out of the community, but at the most simplest idea, the one that I'm keen on is just access to data. It's open finance and open banking, I'm not sure is the right name because people get scared about the idea of my banking data being open. It's a scary idea, it should be private, but it's not open to everyone. It's this idea of, in the same way Facebook and Google have my data and they sell it, whilst banks don't normally sell my data, if they have data on me, I should be able to access that. We should be able to democratize that data. And I have a personal finance page that I write on to try and give advice, and the first tip I have is to track all your money in Excel, because what you can't see can't be managed. And why do I have to put that in Excel? Why can't I see all of my financial data in one solution? Why, when I go to a bank, do I have to send bank statements and screenshots? Why can't they understand my position? Why can't they know what I have so they don't overlend to me? We don't want another situation in 2008 where I can lie to the bank and we go overlending and we have this whole catastrophe in the system. Open finance unlocks a lot of doors for data that were never there before. And the final thing is, once open finance is delivered, I believe it will pave the way for OpenX, open everything, open energy data, open property data, open healthcare data, which that's another podcast, but the amount of possibilities there are huge.
And Nav, I know you've been involved in some industry-wide open banking, open finance groups. Could you tell us some of the exciting things that are going on there that you've been involved in?
Yeah, so I don't know if viewers know about this, the Centre of Finance, Innovation and Technology, CFIT. So headed up by Charlotte Crosswell, who's the chair of the community. So this is an organisation that was formed off the back of a Khalifa review of the fintech industry in the UK that was conducted by the Chancellor, so government level. And the purpose of that review was to see where the fintech industry in the UK sat against other fintech industries in the world. And US came up as number one, and UK is either number 2 or 3. So either Europe is 2 or Europe is 3, and then we have UK. And the reason we're not number 1 is because there are still, like you said, open banking and finance isn't quite there yet. There are still barriers for businesses in terms of accessing data. So CFIT was formed as an organisation to help unblock those barriers. And Shift and Woodhurst played a huge part in, the first coalition. So the first coalition started in August 2023, and the theme of that was open finance. And, I think you mentioned quite briefly earlier about, unlocking the power of open finance, which is the report that Woodhurst wrote off the back of which Shift was born. That report was one of the key pieces of information for that first coalition for CFIT. Some of the diagrams and, the content and the research that was put into that report formed the basis of some of the work that we did in CFIT as well. So there are a number of fintechs, from Shift who got involved in that coalition. I think it's going live in March. And Woodhurst was involved in the early discovery and design phases where we worked with all these different lending businesses and businesses that operated in the data space. In identifying those data sets that were blocked and, prioritizing them in terms of which ones needed to be opened up. And a lot of these were very, you would expect them to be open by now, like HMRC, VAT data, that's the baseline of, being able to access all of your financial data. So that's something that's really, really excited me. But in general, as a consumer, I'm really, excited as well. Like I'm genuinely interested in it from a consumer point of view. Carl, you mentioned that you track all of your finances in an Excel. I do the same. I have about 15 or 16 apps in my finance folder on my phone. And I have to open each of the app to find out and then calculate in my head and in my Excel, okay, where's my money going this month? But really you do want, an organisation to bring all of that together and, but it's just not possible just yet, just because of where the data and the barriers are in the industry, which I think I'm really excited for the future, because I know we are heading in the right direction with it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm definitely a victim of the app fatigue as well. I think I definitely need to get phones out there with more storage or something. But yeah, no, great to hear about sort of your involvement and your insights into the open banking, open finance space. In terms of the communities that you both run, what's your vision and what's next?
I can go first because I thought about this today actually. So the Fintech Champions community, our 11 members are all members from banks, retail and investment banks. So our next step is to expand that. So we do want more members, we do want to reach out to more banks, but also, venture out into the building society space and, the insurance space and any other, payment service providers. So that's something that we're seeing as a vision for this year, where, by the end of the year, we want to have different groups within our community and that we can serve. But also, we talked about success stories earlier, so we have 2 that we're working on. So my, short to long term, short term, not long term, is to see those come to light a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Fintech Champions has a lot clearer and nicer plan because it's earlier on. Shift is, I don't feel it's as essential to grow as quickly. We have a strong community, and I just want to keep that engagement is the most important thing for me. Events, sure, let's go bigger and better. Let's do more of them. Let's do more virtual stuff. Let's have more meetups. Happy with that. But as a community, I like where we're at. And then Shift Plus is obviously this product that we're trying to grow so we can deliver even more impact to the financial market. And as Nav said, the main goal is creating more of those partnerships, seeing if we can facilitate them in a quicker, more efficient way, and if there's any more tech solutions that we can bring to this to make it scalable. So very generic answer, but there's a few things that I'm just keen to keep balanced, essentially.
Definitely, and organic growth and keeping high engagement, I think are really good ones to have on at the top of your list. I mean, it's obviously brilliant what you're building here with Shift Plus, the Fintech Champions community. Could you kind of let our listeners know how they can get involved in any aspect of this?
I guess most people can get involved if you're a fintech. We can, I'm happy to put my email in the description of this podcast. Reach out to me if you'd be relevant for the community. Happy to jump on a call with you, but as Nav and I said, there's no public sign-up link. We have to speak to you before you can join. It's invite only. But it'd be awesome to have more people there, of course. If you're someone who supplies and sells to fintechs, helps them grow, we always like to partner with people to do educational sessions, run events together. And if you want to help sponsor and support a free community to keep going, then that's very much appreciated. And then, of course, if you're from a financial institution, then
reach out to me. I'll also put my name in the description box. But yeah, exactly same process. I will have to speak to you. But yeah, I'll also put my name down in the description as well and reach out to me. But to be honest, me and Carl, we work together on both really. I know we're talking in this podcast about, Fintech Champions and Shift, but so many, sign-ups to Fintech Champions come via Kyle and vice versa. So reach out to any one of us.
Yeah, great. Well, now you know what to do if you want to get involved with this exclusive community. So yeah, without further ado, it's been great to hear from the both of you. We're so happy to have had you here and hear a little bit more in depth around the Shift community and the Fintech Champions community. And yeah, we're so excited to sort of hear about the next moves. What we do at every end of every episode is fire round. So if you're ready, we're going to ask you some quick, short, sharp questions and get your thoughts on those.
They're ready.
Great. So starting off with the first question is, what do you want to be known for?
Problem solver. If people have problems coming to me, I like to be the one. First principles thinking and coming up with creative ideas. That's all I need.
For me, moving finance forward, so I specialise in creating those partnerships between fintechs and, FIs, but I want to do it in a way where, you know, we are moving the finance agenda forward and not just creating partnerships because someone else has created a partnership with a particular vendor and we need to copy them. Like, no. We need to find a solution that, you know, suits your needs and, you know, helps you as a business move forward, because that's the only way the industry would move forward.
Brilliant, yeah, moving it forward in the right way, in the best way.
Yeah.
Second question is, if you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be?
Open finance. Get it. It could be market driven or regulatory driven, but just get it going so I don't have to track my money on Excel anymore.
No more Excels.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I mentioned about this earlier as well. It's, you know, being able to help, you know, FIs to be more proactive in making change. So, you know, that's something that if I could change, then I would love to do that.
Brilliant. And finally, final question is, what is a book, podcast or show that has really inspired you that you would recommend to our listeners?
It's not actually the best read because I put it down because I got bored and then I got back to it. But
Not sold it very
yeah.
well.
So it's going to sound weird when I recommend this, but it's the book that I've somehow taken the most principles from and that I use the most, and that's Lean Startup. I just love the idea of it, and we've used that concept very much in Nav House. She said we reached out to these fintech champions, and then once they signed up, that's when we committed to the product. It's about getting early recommendations. Podcast-wise, this one's pretty epic. Yeah, this one inspires me every day.
Yeah. I mean, if we have any FIs listening, then I would genuinely recommend Fintech Diaries because, you know, that's a great way to build knowledge of the fintech industry.
And we haven't even paid you to say that.
And I've not been paid to say this. But yeah, I mean, I've listened to all of the previous episodes and, you know, we have all these founders from different fintechs and it's a great way to understand their business. So definitely would recommend that. But book, so my mum actually gave me a book 2 Christmases ago called Black Box Thinking by Matthew Said, and I really like that book because, you know, it talks about, you know, being prepared to make mistakes and, you know, learning from your mistakes. So the, you know, example it's used is the black box being the black box in an aeroplane. So when the plane crashes, the experts can come and take that box and, you know, analyze the data and, you know, learn from those mistakes and, you know, make those changes. And this is why the, you know, the industry is, you know, so forward, the airline industry, in terms of, like, you know, the chances of failure is really low. So I think, and it applies not just to people working in finance, but in any kind of, you know, industry you work in. Like we started Shift and Fintech Champions, you know, I've mentioned, you know, wasn't sure what the response was going to be, but we knew it, we saw value in it, so that's something that, you know, that book kind of inspires us to do, which I would recommend.
Yeah. I'll have to add those two to my
Definitely.
list. Well, it looks like the communities are in safe hands, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been wonderful to hear from the both of you, and I'm sure we've learned a lot.
Yeah, we've learnt loads, and yeah, really great to hear kind of the passion that both of you have to drive this forward. And yeah, we'll definitely have to get you back on in a year's time and just see how things have kind of gone to the next level.
That'd be
Thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, both.